Wolfpack, what is going on? It's your boy, the Wolf of Roto Street, rotostreetjournal.com. We breed and feed you fantasy wolves here with your 2025 rookie sleepers, breakouts, guys on waiver wires. We're talking those last round, fourth round or so in rookie draft picks, late round stabs, and best ball as well. This is more of a dynasty focus show, but a lot of these guys that I'm going to talk about at running back at least are finding their way into round 17, 18 of a ton of my best ball drafts too. So I don't think this is just specifically for your dynasty formats. I am going to focus mostly on the running backs. A lot of people, if you study this class at all, the 2025 class is about running back. And I do buy that hype. I think it is a supremely talented running back class. And so guys that went in round 7 or so of the NFL draft, I think are going to land some prime roles that might have gone in rounds 2, 3 in other classes. It was just such a stacked class. So my focus of the sleepers are going to be backfields. I've left plenty of rookie drafts with just 4 straight running back picks, but my man Tanner over here has been diving into the pass catchers as well, and he's got another 4 or 5 names for you guys as well for those positions. My man Tanner, how are you doing before we dive into our first name?
Good, my man. This is Ball Talk also as well. I will be chiming in on mostly pass catchers today. I do have one running back for you guys, but Wolf is going to cover pretty much all running backs today. So we have a few sleepers we like. There's obviously some undrafteds that we'll honorably mention. But other than that, I'll give Wolf the floor for his first sleeper of the day.
And the timing of this actually is not great in the sense of we have our Roto Street Dynasty League draft tomorrow. I'm giving away my sleepers ahead of time, so hopefully not too many of them get sniped. I see Toons already in the comments saying Dynasty Talk, let's go. He'll be in that draft tomorrow. If you guys want to catch that draft, it will be at 7 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow, live streaming our rookie draft and commenting on all that's usually a great stream. We've had a ton of success with that one. So come join us tomorrow if you enjoy this rookie draft talk. But let's dive into our first running back sleeper. And for me, it is Brashard Smith. He's the number 1 running back sleeper and just general sleeper of this class for me, going in the late 4th round in rookie drafts according to sleeper ADP. And I think he is going to crush it in that Jerick McKinnon style role. They did not have one last year, and you could tell the Chiefs offense really sorely missed it. And I just think about when I project a lot of these sleepers, including Smith, about what role could these guys be cast in. And you think about McKinnon and the ceiling we've seen in 2022. I know we're talking a few years ago, but we saw McKinnon finish as the running back 1 in the fantasy playoffs. He went 32, 34, 12, and 22 points in the 4-week span. And again, we got to project a 4-week span for this whole career of this guy. No, but it just goes to show you the upside of a explosive running back in an Andy Reid offense that can run routes, that can catch the ball. And we're talking about Brashard Smith, a converted wide receiver with 4.39 speed, explosive as can be. And the beat writers already are calling this guy a Jerick McKinnon 2.0. He caught a 50-yard wheel route touchdown the other day in practice from Patrick Mahomes, not from the 3rd-string quarterback. This guy is already getting first-team reps in the practices. And Andy Reid's talked about how they see a clear role for him, how they're excited to have him. And again, it's a 7th-round rookie pick. What's he going to do? Well, Isaiah Pacheco, their starting running back, was a 7th-round rookie as well. They had no problem in his rookie year. He had 11 starts that season. And so I don't think the draft capital is anything we should be overly concerned about. This is the 2nd highest team in neutral pass rate over the last 4 years since Patrick Mahomes took over. Brashard Smith was number 1 in yards per route run, targets per route run in college. Lewis Riddick, one of my favorite scouts on the ESPN draft, called this guy an Alvin Kamara clone with 4.3 speed. Talk about a guy, again, only 1 season at running back. He had 1,332 rushing yards on 235 attempts, 5.7 yards per carry, 14 touchdowns, in addition to another 330 yards and 4 TDs through the air. Explosive guy. I mean, had he gone to the Cowboys, he could have been a true 3-down back. But I love this fit as Andy Reid, who's great in the screen game. Brashard Smith had 14.4% of touches on screen, 2nd most of any running back since 2017, and he thrived on them. It's the team that's always in the top half of the league in running back targets. I am thrilled about this fit. I love them as a potential 2.0 Jerick McKinnon, which we have seen the fantasy upside is absolutely astronomical. So I love Brashard Smith in Dynasty, redraft, any type of format. And if you're like, again, is he going to make the roster even? Well, at minimum, he's going to get those punt returns early on. They've already talked about him like clearly locking that roll up. So I'm not worried about the roster spot. I don't think it'll be long till this guy's working himself in as a clear-cut pass-catching back in a great offense for Patrick Mahomes. Am I crazy to love Brashard Smith? What do you think of this fit here, Tanner?
So I was kind of excited about the Brashard Smith drafting just because we needed a running back desperately. I'm saying we.
You're a Chiefs fan, right? Yeah.
Our running back room is very bad. Pacheco will probably be fine for this year, but outside of that, it's very dark. I have no idea who is going to start a running back, to be honest. We had Kareem Hunt most of last year. Pacheco came back after his pretty bad injury during the year and didn't really look the same at all. There's a lot of beating around the drum that Pacheco is going to be the lead back this year again. I'm not sure how good he'll look. Maybe he'll look better than he did at the end of last season, but I'm not really sure. But what I do know is Brashard Smith is a great pass-catching back. He had like an 87th percentile college target share, and I believe that was one of the higher out of this running back class. But he is, like you said, he's going to take over that McKinnon role, which I do think is a valuable role for the Chiefs. I don't think he has the ability to be like a 3-down back. I do think he's going to be in on mostly pass-catching situations, but he brings a lot more burst and speed to the table than Kareem Hunt does, and probably more than Pacheco does, just because, one, Kareem's washed. Pacheco is off a very bad injury, so he's probably going to be a little slower, I'd imagine. So having Brashard in the mix is going to be huge. Carson Steele was a huge miss last year. That was someone everyone was hyping up last summer. I think Brashard Smith is a fair amount better than Carson Steele, and Brashard Smith actually did not start his career at running back in college. He literally switched to running back this past season and went for like 1,400 yards. So he's very solid. I like Brashard Smith as a shot in the dark. Like, you can get this guy occasionally off waivers, but for the most part, just with the hype of him being around on the Chiefs, he usually is going in the last round of your drafts. But yeah, I like Brashard Smith. He's a good pick for sure.
Yeah, you emphasized how bad this running back depth chart, even if Pacheco does get back to Pacheco form, it is a committee. They've always had that kind of pass catching back, that early down guy. And McKinnon, it's just, I see so much in addition to just the speed and the pass catching. He's a touchdown scorer, 18 touchdowns last year for Brashard Smith. And how many times do we see those little dink and dunks to McKinnon where they clear everybody out at the goal line and somehow he just slips under he had 9 touchdowns, including 7 in a 4-game span. And I'm not saying that Brashard will do that, but it is certainly a valuable role. So
yeah,
I'm all about that.
And McKinnon is a fun player to roster on fantasy at least.
Oh yeah,
but
I've always been a McKinnon.
McKinnon is a great player.
Any longtime viewers of us know I've been on the McKinnon train forever. So if I can get my second type of McKinnon here, I'm all about it, and that's why he's my number one.
Not a bad shot either under Andy Reid. So
no, not at all. In addition to Brashard Smith, an uninspiring depth chart giving him potential path to carries, path to usage, I do see the Bears being a wide open depth chart right now. So Kyle Monangai coming in from Rutgers, also going at the end of rookie drafts, a round 4 pick. A guy that I could see carving out that kind of big back. This is Ben Johnson's offense, and I could see him taking over that Montgomery, Jamal Williams style big back role. I know this is not the Lions, yet we've seen this backfield back-to-back years under Ben Johnson lead the NFL in expected fantasy points, so usage, and then actual fantasy points, the production. Both are lining up because it is such a good scheme with tons of volume, both in the pass game and then also at the goal line, going to running backs. In 2022, Jamal Williams led the NFL with 17 touchdowns, and then in 14 games in back-to-back seasons, Montgomery went for 13 touchdowns and 12 touchdowns. And so whoever ends up being that big back, and I don't think it's going to be DeAndre Swift. We've already seen Ben Johnson have trade away DeAndre Swift. And I like Swift in redraft. I think he could have a bounce back year and play a very light Jahmyr Gibbs style role and be explosive and all that. yeah, there's going to be a touchdown roll up for grabs. I don't think they're going to shove that onto DeAndre Swift's plate. So maybe it's Roschon Johnson, who I do think is a viable sleeper, someone to buy into now. But the handpicked guy was Kyle Monangai. I get it. They wanted Travion Henderson. They wanted all these other guys that just didn't end up falling to them. And the one that they ended up pulling the trigger to was Kyle Monangai, who is a bruiser in the Big Ten, a Power 5 conference on a dog crap team. This guy absolutely thrived. He was fed a ton of volume, 270 touches for 1,300 yards and 14 touches, and 250 touches for 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns in back-to-back seasons. They built the plane out of Kyle Monangai as a player, and he's nothing special, no real long speed, not a freak athlete or anything of that nature. But we got these tweets in the offseason. Ben Devine of Chicago NFL saying the Bears discussed adding another running back. There was Nick Chubb. There's J.K. Dobbins. There was plenty of guys they could have plucked off and gotten surefire production from in that big back role. But he says 7th-round pick Kyle Monangai, after seeing what they had, that notion has been tabled. There's a real chance for him to be the number 2 back and see meaningful carries as a rookie. So meaningful carries, a Ben Johnson offense, an offense I think takes a big step. Again, yes, it's not the Lions. It's not the Lions line, but they made some huge additions in terms of Tooney, Jonah Jackson. They got Drew Dahlman at center, the top center in free agency, and already they're getting graded as a top 5 run blocking line if you average the PFF grades there. So I think this offense takes a huge step. I think the running game takes a big step, and somebody alongside DeAndre Swift is going to carve out a meaningful role. Why not the guy they handpicked here? I don't know much. I'm not that impressed with Roschon Johnson so far. So I think that role is wide open. Whether it's Johnson, whether it's Monangai, somebody's going to get that role. And I think it's Monangai, and I love him in round 4 of drafts. I know you're not a favorite. He's not one of the favorite of yours. I don't love the talent either. It's more so picking out the role. What do you think, though? Do you think there's any upside here?
I don't really love Kyle Monangai. I think he was in my somewhere late teens, early 20s for running backs in this class. He was 6th in PFF grade as a junior, but kind of fell off as a senior this past season. Had a very measly sophomore year, didn't really do much. I'm iffy on Kyle Monangai. I'm not really sure. And so I know there's a lot of talk from the Bears, at least, that they're going to bring in a running back. And I've been hearing that a lot. We heard Kenneth Walker earlier in the offseason. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but it does seem like the Bears don't love Swift. So that is what you have going for you in terms of Monangai. So there might be something there. I also don't like Roschon Johnson, so I'm with you there. So there is opportunity here. Like Swift, Swift was decent last year, but Swift has, everyone knows Swift has never really been a lead RB1 in this league. He gets nicked up too much. He's just, honestly, he's like very good as a pass catcher, more so than a rusher. But Monangai, I think that's not a bad shot just because of the opportunity there. But if they bring another back, I mean, he could just be another drop. You never know.
Oh, he could be toast, right? Especially if Walker comes in. I just think, again, when you had the option to add Chubb and Dobbins, especially Dobbins. Chubb, I can see if you think he's washed, you think he's done okay. Dobbins had a really solid year last year. He was there for the taking. He didn't sign for a huge deal. I think if they were going to make a move, they would have at this point. They're going to at least give this year a trial run, see how it goes. Now, if Monangai does nothing by next year in dynasty formats, we probably will never be hearing from him again. But if he thrives, he has 12 touchdowns and is like, you know what? We have our big back. Maybe we get some explosive talent to mix with him. He could have a 10-plus touchdown type of role for multiple seasons here. I know Toons is bringing up one of the main criticisms I see is there's that one clip where Eric Bieniemy is like, oh, you look like an old man in that drill.
Everyone saw that video.
Everybody saw it. He did look horrible in that one drill, but it was one drill. I later have seen Ben Johnson come out and say he was the most improved player, the most impressive player even in training camp so far, or OTAs rather. Training camp will be a little bit later. And I think he's going to only thrive more once those pads come on. He's not this – it's not a guy that's going to thrive in padless practice. He's looked smooth as a receiver, though, what the reports are. He's a natural pass catcher. He's the type of guy you get the pads on, let him hit, steamroll some people. He's not going to look good in padless practices, and I think he's just only gotten better since then. So I hear you, Toons, but if that means that he's going to keep falling in these drafts, I'm all for it. So yeah, I don't love the player necessarily, but I love the role he could be entering into. And it's not a role that you have to be supremely talented for. You just have to push a pile. You have to get into the end zone. And I think he's the type of guy that can do that after proving it in the Big Ten competition offseason. If you guys have any other questions, comments, keep them coming. We love it. Any thumbs up if you enjoy what you're hearing do help us get out to more people. So please consider hitting that heart button on Twitter, the thumbs up on YouTube, wherever you're coming in from. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you again so much for watching, whether you're live or catching the replay. Now, the next running back sleeper I have on my list is Jordan James from San Fran. So unlike these other ones where the depth chart's uninspiring and you can find a clear-cut role for him, we know James isn't going to sniff the field so long as Christian McCaffrey is healthy. This is a mere handcuff stab, but Christian McCaffrey has missed at least half the season in 3 of his last 5 seasons. Somebody's been burned by him many, many times. I think Jordan James is the clear-cut number 2 back in this offense. Oronde, sure, he had some impressive fantasy performances last year. I don't think he's that good at all, though. I think that is more a nod to how good the Kyle Shanahan rush scheme is. We are talking about Jared McKinnon. I've been raving about Kyle Shanahan, his scheme forever, groomed in that Kubiak mold. The zone blocking is unbelievable. No team runs zone blocking at a higher rate. Over 70% of their rushes were zone rushes, 53% of those being the outside zone. And James was number 3 in this class with 6.6 yards per outside zone run in college. He is an elite outside zone runner on an elite outside zone scheme. And I just see the perfect amount of player talent and fit in a stacked running back class. This was Dane Brugler, one of my favorite analysts, running back 7, 77th overall player after going for 1,476 yards and 15 touchdowns. And the thing with him and why I love him, similar to, again, Monangai, where there's no real breakaway speed. He's not a freak athlete. In fact, his RAS score was 3.87. But all he does is just constantly fall forward. He led the college football in those yards of 10 or more, carries of 10 or more yards. He led the back-to-back year in success rate in 2023 and 2024. They were the best among any running back in the last 4 years. He's the top of that list in back-to-back seasons. So he's constantly getting what's blocked. He's constantly moving forward. This is a guy that is talented enough to force a committee with Bucky Irving, last year's best rookie running back, who was also a 2.27 in the RAS score. So I appreciate athleticism as much as the next guy, but clearly they're doing something there at Oregon where they don't have these freak backs, but they come in and they are just NFL ready. They get what's blocked. And again, the scheme, you look at Jordan Mason, the running back 9 in weeks from 1 to 7 before getting hurt himself. Oronde pops in for multiple 19-plus point games. And again, not a guy that I think is a great running back. John Lynch is coming out and saying this is a guy we really coveted. We were so happy to come away with Jordan James. So I see a perfect zone running fit. And if CMC, who is under contract till 2027, but they have a big out in 2027 where they could save a ton of money. So if we have another injury-bitten year this year, next year, I think it's only a matter of time before Jordan James gets a real look as the lead running back in this scheme. And if he thrives and once the CMC is done, becomes the future back for the 49ers, you're talking about a dynasty home run in that sense. So I think Jordan James, especially if you have the ability to be patient. The other guys, if you need a running back to play for you now, I think Monangai might bring a little bit more immediate usability. Same with Brashard Smith. But Jordan James, of the 3 guys I've talked about so far, in terms of like long-term dynasty ceiling, I think it's through the roof for a 4th-round pick. So if you have a roster that can be patient, I would say he's actually maybe the top running back sleeper in this class. What do you think of Jordan James?
I think Jordan James is my favorite sleeper of yours, personally.
Love it.
Jordan James has always been efficient on every touch of his, despite, who he's played with. He played with Bucky Irving. So he gets limited touches at Oregon, but for the most part, he made the most of every touch. To my knowledge, I believe he had 0 fumbles on a career 385 carries or so. Which is something Shanahan's going to like, something every NFL coach is going to like. No fumble. Monangai
as well, 670 carries, no fumbles. A common trend there with my sleepers. You're right.
I did not know that. Interesting. Yeah. So another thing with Jordan James is he's got he's very efficient in the red zone. I think he had 31 career touchdowns on just those 386 touches, which is just a crazy nose for the end zone. But Jordan James, we saw with Oronde last year, like Oronde is not good. And Jordan James actually is, but Guerendo still got his go because CMC, both of his knees are absolutely shot. He should be back this year, but I'm not really sure how much more of CMC we see. Someone's got to step up, and they just got rid of Elijah Mitchell. He is a Chief now, and there's a role to be had there, and I think Jordan James can absolutely beat out Isaac Guerendo. The only thing Isaac Guerendo has is speed.
Elite speed, too. Yeah, it's freak size speed, but yeah, that's it.
Everyone freaked out when he had that 50-yard rush last year in garbage time, and everyone added him on waivers, and Guerendo just kind of fell off.
Right. And he got hurt himself. Injury history there is strong with Guerendo as well. Last James stat I'll toss out there, too. 36.5 of his carries went for either a first down or a touchdown. That's pretty crazy efficiency right there. That was number 2 in college as well. So, yeah, just an injury away from potentially the most valuable rookie running back in this class. And the running back in front of him has missed half the season in 3 out of 5 years. So I like that math. I think it adds up. And especially if you can be patient, probably my favorite running back sleeper in this class. The last one I'm going to toss out there, he's on a decent amount of waivers, about 60% rostered, Jacory Croskey-Merritt. And he's a guy that it's tough to know a ton about him because he only got 1 game in last year before those eligibility issues popped up. It was a great game. He had over 100 yards and a touchdown on limited touches in that game. But the year before that, very impressive at New Mexico State, I believe, was where he played. But this is another one where I talked about Jordan James and the outside zone and how he thrives on those runs, and that's a team that runs it more often than anybody else. Well, the inside zone is the key of Jacory Croskey-Merritt's game. 51% of his college attempts came on inside zone runs. Only RJ Harvey had a higher rate there, and he averaged 7.2 yards per inside zone, which was the best in this class, landing on a Commanders offense with Cliff Kingsbury that ran the 3rd highest inside zone, 35% of their runs, and even more so, 88% of running back runs in Washington came out of the shotgun to lead the NFL, and JCM almost ran exclusively out of the shotgun in college. Shout out to Jacob Gibbs over at CBS Sports with that stat. I love that one. And so it's one of those seamless type of transitions in an offense that is projected to be, depending on where you bet, the 4th or 5th highest scoring offense in the year in points per game at ascending Jaden Daniels. And you look at the rest of the running back room, Brian Robinson, the running back, 29 last year. Eckler is 30. Both these guys are free agents next year anyways. If JCM comes in here and he's thriving on the same type of runs that he thrived on in college, there's no reason why they won't give him an extended look in this offense. And so potentially he's got a 3-down skill set. This is a 8.29 RAS score as well, 4.45, 40, 208, not a huge guy, but a nice 40, and then elite vertical explosion in the 90th percentile in vertical and broad explosion testing as well. He's like a perfect, just one cut and go type of runner. And that's beautiful for this game. And Anthony Lynn, the running backs coach, I just love this guy. Anthony Lynn running backs just typically thrive. We look back to the Chargers when they had Gordon and Eckler both thrive. He's just always had a good run scheme over there. And he's not a guy that hands out praise. And he says this guy, Merritt, he's a young professional. He's worked his way up to get to this level. There's a ton with his work ethic. I don't know what we have in him, but he's like a weed growing every day. So I like my weed running backs. I like a lot about weed. I certainly like my running backs to be tough and compared to a weed that keeps on growing. The MVP of the East-West Shrine Bowl as well. Star of OTAs, the Athletic saying he was the standout in rookie camp so far. The agility, the burst, all of that the backfield lacked is what they are seeing right now in Jacory Croskey-Merritt. So between the long-term outlook of both guys in front of him being free agents next year to the perfect scheme fit, to the fact that he's just way more explosive than anybody else they have right now, I could see immediate value, and I definitely see a long-term value if he does thrive if given the opportunity this year. So JCM, the guy I know the least about, and yet I just see such a good fit here and a potential path to value. What do you know about this kid? Do you like him at all?
So I do like Jacory Croskey-Merritt. I honestly came upon him right around combine time. Mm-hmm. Just looking through all the prospects that he possibly can. He was 8th in PFF grade as last year in 2023, which is right behind Ashton Genty, and ahead of him was actually Jordan James. So interesting. Jacory is 24. So that does concern me. There's a lot of opportunity in the Commanders running back room. Brian Robinson is their clear workhorse, but he is decent. Eckler is falling off. We know that. That's kind of the role I believe Jacory would take over. Chris Rodriguez is kind of a nothing. Jacory can definitely do some sort of, if anything, he's going to have short-term value. That's the thing with these older running backs, in my opinion, like RJ Harvey, who's 24. All these guys are short-term value. So they will be replaced in 1 to 2 years. Tyrone Tracy had a great year. He's going to be 25 this year, maybe 26, actually. I'm not sure. You can fact check.
No way. Is he already going to be 26?
Let me hold on. Let me look.
You keep going. I'll Google it for you.
No, Tyrone Tracy will be 26 in November.
In November, yeah, he's already 25 years old.
He was a rookie last year.
Yeah.
So, and they just drafted Cam Scatabo. So,
who I love. We're not talking. He's not a sleeper. I am all in on Scatabo.
Right. I don't mind Scatabo either. And he'll probably be pretty good eventually. But right now, it's going to be Tracy, and I think Tracy will be there for probably the next year, and then Scatabo takes over. That's the thing. It's like they get replaced so quickly. So when shooting on these sleepers like this, you got to know that it's going to be short-term value. So if it is Brian Robinson and they sign someone else, and boom, Jacory's done again. You're dropping it. But I do like Jacory. I know a lot of people have hyped him up. His film looks really good. I don't mind the pick at all. I mean, you can basically get this guy for free off waiver pairs and everything.
It is, yeah, and you bring up a good point. Like with the low draft capital too, with Monangai, with Merritt, even Brashard Smith, these are 7th round guys that even if they do thrive, like the team could sign a big free agent or draft somebody in round 2 or 3 the next year, and it's not like they have this huge commitment to them. But it's not like they can't work out either. It is rare to see somebody get a true long-term commitment. But if it just proves to be that perfect fit for what they do, there's Kyron Williams, there's these guys that do just pop out from nowhere that prove to be exactly what their coach needs. They get what's blocked. They fit the scheme perfect. And it's a running back position that has been devalued unless you're a Saquon, a Derrick Henry. It's just kind of you get the guy that fits what you want to do and let him do what he can. And so I could see that happening for any of these guys, but you're absolutely right. That's why they're sleepers. That's why they're going in round 4. Their team didn't commit to them in round 2 or 3. So the runway is very short here, but they're going to at least – these are guys that I do see with talent that fits what the team wants to do. And if they do thrive in this short term right now, could potentially earn the long term. Yes. Yeah.
I will say that most running backs in this class did end up getting taken way later than we all thought they would.
Right.
So there's 2 sides to this. Either this running back class isn't as good as we thought it is, or 2, the teams saw how deep this class was.
That's what it is.
And waited until rounds 4, 5, 6, 7 to grab their running backs and use those high draft picks on more valuable positions for their team. And this is where we are. We're just like, we got a bunch of 7th round running backs, and one of them's got to hit, right? 2 of them, maybe 3, 4, 5. We don't know.
It could.
But
I think it's absolutely the latter, what you bring up there, where it's, and you read a lot of that when you read the post-draft commentary. In any other class, this guy would have gone round 3, but it was just so deep that they didn't feel the need to invest till round 7 type of thing.
Right.
You see a ton of that in the post-draft analysis. So that's what I'm leaning. But yeah, maybe it isn't as good as we all expect. I do think it's going to be a great running back class, and I want to pluck as many of these guys as I can.
Agreed. There are last year there was Bucky Irving. I know you liked Bucky Irving.
Huge buck.
There's probably 5 to 7 Bucky Irvings here. We'll find them. We'll find them.
Absolutely. Could be any of these 4 I mentioned. You got another running back. So the ones I focus on besides Jordan James have that more immediate potential impact. You are a better dynasty player than me. I'll admit it already. You take a better long-term view, and you wanted to highlight Damien Martinez out of the backfields. So I'll preface it by just saying, I see Ken Walker, I see Charbonnet. So I see two hurdles this guy has to overcome to get relevant. But again, that long-term outlook is probably what we need. So what do you love about Damien Martinez here?
He's super young, so long-term wise, he'll be fine. I think Seahawks are looking to get out on Kenneth Walker. If it's not this year, it's next year. Charbonnet, we know, can probably be a lead back, but even then, his time will come, or eventually he'll take over that Charb role. Damien Martinez would. And we know that's also a valuable role. That's an elite handcuff role. You can get this guy for free. So that's the thing. It's like, why not? This is a guy I had very high pre-draft, and he's being deflated because of landing spot, which has happened to a lot of guys, and a lot of guys are being inflated because of their landing spot. So I'm looking to take shots at value on guys that lost a ton of value after the draft. It's like, if the Chiefs took this guy in round 5, 6, 7, he'd be being taken in like round
Cowboys
2,
lead running back, like
round 2 and 3, right? So like he is a good running back. Like, this guy probably could lead the Cowboys, but he's just not. So the reason I like Damien Martinez, though, I think I had him around RB 10-ish pre-draft. So he committed to Oregon State University. He was just an 18-year-old freshman. He posted 970 rushing yards with 7 touchdowns and a single fumble on 158 carries. He racked up 6 consecutive games of 100 rushing yards, and he earned himself Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year and first team All-Pac as a freshman.
And that list, you sent it to me yesterday, like the list of running backs to do that as rookies that were like 18, 19-year-olds. Do you still have that? It was very impressive.
Yes. So Martinez, this is from my friend Debbie Youssef on Twitter. Martinez is just one of 6 power conference underclassmen running backs since 2017 to post at least 2 seasons of above a 90-plus rushing grade or better on at least 150 carries. The other running backs to do so are Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, Omarion Hampton, Quinshon Judkins, and then I'll mention these 2 next to each other, Bucky Irving and Damien Martinez.
Love it.
So there might be value here. We don't know, but the rest of the list seems pretty good.
And then the freshman one, too. Was it Herschel Walker, AP, McFadden, Fournette, and JT, right?
950 rushing yards as an 18-year-old true freshman is no small feat.
No.
Quinshon Judkins, we saw, had 1,400 in his freshman season, which is also very good. And that's why Judkins is, being taken so high. Yeah. We're talking about a 7th-round running back here. So it's a little bit different. So you were talking about that list. So there are a lot of other notable running backs that did, accomplish 950 rushing yards in their true freshman season, like Herschel Walker, Adrian Peterson, Darren McFadden, Leonard Fournette, and again, Jonathan Taylor. So maybe I am leaning towards more the latter, that this running back class, like all these teams just waited and to grab that value at the end, because that's what I think, because there's no way this guy deserves to be taken in round 7.
Yeah, plus athleticism for a big body. And I do really like, who knows how this Seahawks season will go, what the regime is, but I love Clint Kubiak as a run game. Shanahan I was raving about, he was groomed by Kubiak's dad there, Gary Kubiak. They just churn out amazing running backs. We just saw Alvin Kamara, who everyone thought was pure dust, have a phenomenal top 7 running back season in this exact scheme that they're now bringing to the Seahawks. We know that Mike McDaniels does love to run the rock and wants to. He fired, their coordinator last year because he was throwing too often. And so I do think this will be a good marriage between offensive coordinator, the head coach, and what he wants to do. So I'm hoping Kubiak's there for a while. We got Ken Walker. This is his last contracted year. So if you take that long outlook and Martinez is impressing, maybe he does become the feature back. Like I said, Charbonnet, you're not a huge Charbonnet guy. I'm not necessarily either. He did good with the volume he got last year. But some of these impressive stats that you've tossed out there about Martinez in a scheme that I love, as early as next year, and maybe if there's enough injuries, we see those flashes this year. He's somebody I appreciate you bringing him up, because he kind of I had that short-term redraft best ball player. This guy's not going to do anything this year. And then you really consider what that long-term outlook is for him. It could be beautiful if he's as good as you're saying he is.
Yeah. I mean, this is a guy this is my only running back that I've highlighted today as a sleeper. I have been picking up a lot of Raheem Sanders, believe it or not.
The Rocket Raheem, dude. I love the Rocket.
Rocket Sanders, baby. He's an undrafted free agent for the Chargers. Obviously, they took Hampton and have Najee, but if there's anyone that's going to eventually take over that handcuff role or say Hampton busts like Javonte Williams did at UNC, then, hey, Raheem Sanders season. But anyways, I have more to say on Damien Martinez. I do really like this guy. You can get him in any league. He has fallen off of all radars with his landing spot. Like, even Wolf didn't really remember. He was like, "Oh yeah, Damien Martinez." When I mentioned him, I'm like, "Yeah, dude, he's really good." But yeah, so talking about what I said earlier about there might be 5 to 7 Bucky Irvings here in this class. There actually might be. Martinez had more EPA per team play, experience-adjusted dominator rating, and experience-adjusted yards per team play than Bucky Irving did in each of his first 2 collegiate seasons. And I'm not so much – I don't really like late breakouts particularly. So when a running back just, comes out of nowhere and with 1,500 yards in their senior year, I'm not going to fly them up my draft boards. I like to see production early. That's why Judkins and Henderson were taken so early, because they both had early production in their collegiate careers. So with Damien Martinez, I do see a lot of upside there. He has an 88th percentile in-game athleticism score with a max speed of 21.2 miles an hour, which is also 88th percentile. He's 6 foot 217, so he's absolutely able to take over a workhorse role. I'm not the biggest fan of Charbonnet. So I know a lot of people like him coming out. I know he could probably be a lead back. We've seen him step in for Kenneth Walker and perform capably. But like I said, if Kenneth Walker leaves, Damien Martinez is Charbonnet. So I'll take that for free any day. Absolutely. And with Damien Martinez, he's, like I said, he's free. Like, that's all you need.
Yeah. I actually added him on a Dynasty league that he was just sitting on the waivers after we talked about him the other day. So I'm totally with you. We'll wrap up running backs. I'll just toss out one more. We're not going to belabor him. But Tahj Brooks is one other name I'd say to consider in that idea of the gap and concept that a team runs and what he does well. Bengals were 5th in man gap run rate, and Brooks is a perfect fit, averaging 5.6 yards per carry in those 3.5 yards after contact, 28% avoided tackle rate on man gap runs in his collegiate career. Nothing special, but a very good processor, just a guy that can eat volume. I do think Chase Brown, he's going to be their guy. He's clearly the lead back, but not a huge guy. And if there's ever an injury or if they do decide, there was a while that Zach Moss was actually leading this backfield last year, and I don't think Brooks will lead it with Chase Brown, but if they decide they want to complement, I think Brooks can absolutely beat out him. There's P. Ryan now there as well. So I don't think the path is as clear as some people are making it, but I do think Brooks could beat out P. Ryan, could beat out Moss, and be that number 2 in what we all think is going to be a top 5 offense in the NFL. So that was the last running back sleeper I wanted to toss out there. We're now going to turn our attention to pass catchers, which Tanner has been diving into more than me, but he showed me his list, and they actually line up perfectly with the ones that I would have wanted to bring up too. So I got some nuggets on him, but we'll let you take the lead with a guy we both love, Gadsden over here. Tell me about the Chargers tight end and why you love him.
I've been beating the drum for this guy all offseason, man. But now he's getting the hype he deserves. Twitter's all over him. They found out about him. What's that? Sorry.
No, you're good.
An ad just popped up, I guess. No. So, yeah, I really like Gadsden. So I had Fannin at tight end 2, and I had Gadsden at tight end 3 pre-draft. Tyler Warren was my tight end 4.
That's nuts. I love it.
I still feel that way, but except I would actually put Gadsden ahead of Fannin with his landing spot. Fannin is obviously coming into the Browns, who have a legit top tight end in Njoku, who I also really love. So I think it'll be great for Fannin to learn behind Njoku, but Gadsden is the one that I'm really particularly interested in. And that's mainly because they don't really have a stable tight end. They, the Chargers tight end room is far more wide open, considering they're only paying Will Dissly like $4 million in base salary. And Dissly has literally never been a top 20 tight end in fantasy points per game in his entire career. So I did actually like Dissly as a waiver pickup last year, and he did help me out quite a bit. But Gadsden is the one you want, upside wise. Herbert does target his tight ends. Herbert is very friendly with his tight ends. Like Dissly also got nicked up quite a bit last year. I imagine they took Gadsden. I think they do like Dissly, but Gadsden seems to be their future per se. We know tight ends develop a lot later than any other position, really. So with these tight ends, all I ask is that you take patience versus these 24-year-old running backs who probably will fall off at the face of the earth. So Gadsden, he was actually a 3-star recruit out of Fort Lauderdale. He didn't do much his freshman year in Syracuse, but the Syracuse didn't even hit 2,000 passing yards as a team. So what he did at Syracuse is actually phenomenal. So in 2022, he decided to make a change. He was a wide receiver. So he came in as a wide receiver recruit, and then in 2022 switched to tight end. So as a 19-year-old true sophomore, Gadsden led all collegiate tight ends in receiving yards in his first season playing tight end. He had 61 receptions for 969 receiving yards, and both of those were Syracuse single-season records. And he earned himself first-team All-AAC and also managed to grab 6 touchdowns on just 2 drops. So this guy's got hands. He's a receiving tight end. That is, the upside I'm looking for, and that's why I like Colson Loveland so much. Receiving tight end. That's why I'm down on Tyler Warren, because he is not so much your modern NFL receiving tight end that we're seeing like Brock Bowers, right? So I got some other interesting stats here. So amongst all Power 5 pass catchers with 50 targets in that first season as a tight end, he was 5th in receiving grade, just behind Marvin Harrison, and ahead of quite a plethora of prospects like Jordan Addison, Sam Laporta, even Brock Bowers. He had 2.44 yards per route run, which is ahead of Zay Flowers, Josh Downs, Malik Neighbors, Ladd McConkey, Sam Laporta, again, Brock Bowers, Xavier Worthy, Jaden Reed. Like this guy can play. And I think I think that the same thing happened with this tight end class. We went in thinking this tight end class was so deep and these guys were going to go so high. I thought Gadsden would go round 3 at least. But we got round 5. And I think they saw the same thing they saw with running backs, that they could get this value later in the draft. And that's why we're able to get value on Oronde. So he missed the entire 2023 season with a Liz Frank injury. So there is a little bit of an injury history there, but he came back and posted 69 receptions for 860 yards and 5 touchdowns while running 60% of his routes out of the slot. He was 2nd in contested targets and catches, 4th in targets, receptions, receiving yards, and first downs, and was 7th in offensive grade just behind Colson Loveland. I really like this guy. I don't know. You can chime in and say your 2 cents here, but I think this is my number 1 tight end sleeper, and he might be my number 1 sleeper.
I think it's a phenomenal call, and you painted a great picture of how he was so productive in college and what he brings to the table, and the fact that already at the pros we get He's waking up at 5:30, the first person in the facility. The coaches are saying he's got the best approach to the game we've ever seen. Type of praise for him. Jim Harbaugh saying, the way he works, the way he brings he's gotten praise from Harbaugh, Roman, and then the tight ends coach at 3 separate occasions, and Justin Herbert, his quarterback, already this offseason. So just to bring up a few of those nuggets as to what they've said about him and how they're so impressed. We've got Jim Harbaugh saying, I got to find the exact quote. I put it in my notes here. We got Greg Roman rather saying he's flashing early, big plays, making them throughout it. We've got the tight end coach, Andy Bischoff, saying, I coached Darren Waller, who we converted to a tight end from a wide receiver in college, and we see very similar twitchiness, ability to separate from this guy. Justin Herbert saying every time I've gone to him, he's made the play, streaking down the field, big play threat. Jim Harbaugh just saying tremendous, impressive. He went on like a 3-minute diatribe, just raving about the guy. And so everyone in the facility is raving about him. And like you mentioned, Disley, Conklin, the only guys that he has to overtake. I mean, we could be talking about their number 1 tight end from day one, never mind long-term.
That's what I'm saying.
We probably are looking at that. And this is a scheme with Greg Roman. You look at Vernon Davis. You look at Mark Andrews. When he has an athletic tight end, he's always fed him, and Justin Herbert's always loved to feed his tight end when he has the right guy too. So I think there's immediate value. I'm starting to take him in the last round of best ball drafts right now. But I think, especially if you get Justin Herbert's number 1 tight end for the next 10 years, you're gold mine in round 4. So I see no reason not to be peppering this guy in drafts right now. I absolutely love the call in Dynasty and also in redraft. So I think it's a great one. He's my favorite tight end sleeper for sure as well, and maybe the best overall sleeper in this class. Because, I mentioned that, this was a running back heavy class. That's what I want to hammer. But the tight end class, there was another position that got really hyped up. It was tight end. So he seems to got lost in the shuffle. The fact that he fell to round 5, I think everyone's going to look at it and say, how did they let this happen? I love him. I love Gadsden. I think it is a phenomenal call. You got a few receivers on this list to dive into, too. Another one that I love, Dante Thornton. We're already starting to get some hype as a potential starter from year 1, even though he got lower draft capital than Jack Besh. What do you like about Thornton? And let's hear what you got.
So Thornton, obviously the most intriguing thing about Thornton is the body type is crazy. 6'5", 205, runs a 4.3 40. He didn't get nearly as much hype as Matthew Golden did for running his 4.3 at 5'11". That's what's crazy to me is that a guy 6 inches taller runs the same 40-yard dash and does not get the same amount of respect. I don't understand. I'm a Matthew Golden hater, so I wouldn't understand. But Deontay Thornton, I do really like. There's a ton of opportunity in the Las Vegas room. They lost Devontae Adams. Really, all they have now is obviously Brock Bowers, but they have Jacoby Myers. I believe that's going to be their top wide receiver. They did take Jack Beck in round 2, and I am skeptical of Jack Beck. I didn't really love him as a prospect. I might be wrong. He is very athletic, but who is more athletic? The 6'5", 205 guy that can run a 4.3 or Jack Beck? I don't know. But I did see something interesting or find something interesting on that aspect. There have only been 3 players in NFL history to be 1.93 meters tall, which is about 6'4" and
meters. Okay, I'm gonna let you keep going. But when the hell do we start measuring?
It's like 6'4" and a few. And those 3 receivers are Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson, and Deontay Thornton Jr. Those 3 receivers are the only receivers to run faster than 4.35s at that height or taller.
It's an impressive list. So, good company.
I mean, it's good company. Deontay Thornton Jr. probably is not Calvin Johnson. He probably is not Randy Moss, but the upside is there. Absolutely. I really don't mind taking a shot on this guy. This guy, you can really get him for free in pretty much every league. But this past season, he was second in yards per route run. He had the 3rd longest catch. with 86 yards. He was 4th in yards after the catch per reception, 5th in NFL passer rating when targeted. He led the nation with over 25 yards per catch and ended the season with just 661 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. But that was on 26 receptions.
That's crazy.
He led the FBS in big time catch rate at 23.5%. So this guy can play. I think we know that. We saw a lot of big plays from him. He originally started out at Oregon, actually, and transferred to Tennessee. But like I said, there is opportunity in this room, and there is upside in this player, and I'm going to take that pretty much every time. And I'm a big drumbeater of breakout age. Thornton Jr. had a 93rd percentile breakout age. So that for me is huge for pass catchers. And yeah, I'm in on Thornton.
9.8 RAS score, 69th out of 3,408 wide receivers relative athletic score. That puts him in the first percentile. So you got a great athlete. You mentioned some of those production stats. I didn't realize the yards after the catch, he was that good per reception as well. For a big guy like that, you think just like a long ball, deep threat, or towering over people making contested catches. But the fact that he can actually do it after the catch.
If he beats you and catches it, he is gone.
Just to the house. I love those type of guys. Yeah, you slant it and then boom, he's running 60 yards down the field. And you think like, okay, when you have to account for Bowers, you have to account for Myers, Genty now out of the backfield. Thorne's not going to be drawing the number one attention by any means. And so when he's roasting number 3 corners on a slant and then just the rest of the defense is shifted to other people, I can totally see those type of huge plays happening. And the fact is he's already, quote, running ahead of Jack Beck. He's been, quote, become a top target for Geno Smith so far, according to the beat writer Levi Edwards, using his speed to get vertical down the field, towering over smaller defenders in the middle of the field, and using his acceleration to separate consistently. So you love to hear all those reports. I know it's just spring, but the fact that they're already running him out ahead of Jack Beck, who they spent higher capital on. And I like Beck. I was hoping he'd land with the Packers or somewhere where he could kind of play a Cooper Kupp style role. To me, it seems a little redundant to what they have in Myers already, whereas Thornton just brings a much different skill set to the table. He lifts the lid from the defense. And Geno Smith, whatever you want to say his faults are, he's been one of the best deep passers in the NFL the last 3 seasons. He's been ranked number 1 2 years ago in terms of passer rating on deep attempts, and he's always consistently been in that top 5. And so I think it's a perfect fit. The fact that those two are already meshing, the fact that he's already running with the first team and bringing all this to the table, I don't care about the draft capital between him and versus Beck. It seems like he's the one with the role, and you can see why an NFL team would value that over what Beck brings to the table when you have the other comparable guys here. So I love it. I love the immediate value. I love the long-term outlook here. I think he's a great one to highlight, going way too cheap.
And like a lot of people forget, like this guy coming out of high school he was as well regarded as a lot of receivers we know and love, like Marvin Harrison, Brian Thomas, Xavier Worthy. Like he was right there. He was a top prospect coming out of high school and just really didn't get the volume in college that he had probably hoped for. But when he did get catches, he produced on every single one. And like you said, Geno, is a good downfield passer. Thornton's going to be open.
I love it. And the next one I like even more. Elic Ayomanor, I believe. I hope I didn't just butcher that.
Elic Ayomanor is how I've been saying it.
Perfect. Cam Ward comes in, number 1 overall pick, fresh rookie quarterback in there, needs some targets. You got Calvin Ridley and really not a whole lot else. And so the prime opportunity, and you must think Ayomanor is the one to take it over. So what do you love about this kid?
I love a lot about Ayomanor. So I mentioned him pre-draft too. I actually had him above of Amika, believe it or not.
Wow.
He was 2nd in receiving yards market share out of this class, 5th in receiving yards per team pass attempt, which were both ahead of Travis Hunter, Burden, Agbuka. Ayomanor can play, and like you said, he's an athlete. He's got a 9.71 RAS score. He runs a 4.44 40. There's a ton of room here too to grow in the Titans wide receiver room. They have really no locked in future wide receiver one. They have Calvin Ridley. He's kind of fallen off a little bit here and there, but other than that, they have no one else. They drafted Shamir Dyke before Ayomanor, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't have Shamir Dyke on literally any board. But I do like Ayomanor a lot. So he had a kind of an interesting collegiate career. He only really played 2 seasons. So he redshirted his entire freshman year, but he officially broke out in his first collegiate season as a sophomore, recording over 1,000 yards on 63 receptions with 6 caught touchdowns. Amongst 125 P5 wide receivers with 50 targets in 2023, Ayomanor ranked 30th in yards per route run and 36th in receiving grade. He also tied for 3rd in contested catches, which was just behind McMillan and ahead of Marvin Harrison, Burden, and Keon Coleman. So I think most people kind of remember Ayomanor when he broke out against Colorado on the road. He hung video game numbers on Travis Hunter. He caught 13 passes for 18 targets on 294 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns for an absurd 5.55 yards per route run. I think most people remember when he mossed Travis Hunter in the end zone during overtime, the helmet grab over his head. I don't know if anybody's seen that. But 2 weeks later, he caught 10 balls on 13 targets for 150 yards against the championship game runner-ups, the Washington Huskies, the year they had Penix. So although his box score numbers don't really like jump off the page like a lot of other prospects do, he does have a lot of metrics that do support the idea that he can be a starting X in the NFL. And to be honest, there's been a lot of drum beating on him being the starter in Tennessee. So he posted a 40.1% college dominant rating, which is 83rd percentile in top 5 in this class. He also had over a 30% college target share, which is also 90th percentile. And his 2.31 receiving yards per team pass attempt in his collegiate career was ahead of Burden, Hunter, Igbuka, Higgins, and Golden. And I just don't like metric wise, this guy is almost perfect. So really, I think he had to have fallen in the draft merely based off of injury history. But like I said, there's so much opportunity here in Tennessee, and they have a brand new quarterback who doesn't have chemistry with anyone. So it's, I think this is a perfect shot to say, hey, maybe there might be some chemistry here with Elic Ayomanor.
Absolutely. I mean, the uncertainty of the depth chart, I think, is why he's become such a value. Because, yeah, you do get Xavier Restrepo there, who played with Cam Ward in college, and they drafted Dyke ahead of him, which made no sense to me. I'm surprised Ayomanor fell as far as he did and didn't go where Dyke went. But now he's there, and as you said, the drumbeat is loud, consistently making plays in practice, impressing with his size. And you already cited my favorite stat, the fact that he hung almost 300 yards and 3 touchdowns on a guy that a team just traded their franchise away to go get that to play cornerback, the best cornerback in the class in Travis Hunter. Well, this guy just took him to the tool shed and gets to face him twice a year now too. So hopefully he can get his revenge regularly in the same division there for Ayomanor. It sounds like he's already thriving though. Tons of good athletics, 9.56 relative athletic score as well. So maybe not a Thornton in terms of athleticism, but we're talking top 150 out of 3,408 receivers from 1987 to 2025, top 95th percentile type of athleticism there. Where they got a rookie core, if it does thrive, if they do connect, how many times have we seen that where like they come in together and they just thrive for the next 10 years? That could totally be Ayomanor. And I'm not ready to throw in the towel yet on Callahan. It wasn't the best debut, but I'm not going to judge anybody based on a Will Levis-led offense. We saw like, what's his name? Jake Browning, I think, for the Bengals. He was putting up some solid numbers even when Burrow got hurt. And so I think if Cam Ward is as good as a lot of people think, and if there's a real chance it could be Ayomanor, maybe it's Restrepo, who's I just like getting tabs in the Titans receiver room.
That's another guy that's been getting so much hype. He went undrafted and runs like a 4.8.
Oh, the athleticism's nowhere. He's disgusting of an athlete. Yeah.
The only reason people are grabbing this guy is because he played with Cam Ward at Miami.
Sure. He is the type of guy, though, that, like, if they have that chemistry, he knows where to sink his routes. Like, I
Yes.
could see if one of these guys is going to be a home run, it's certainly Ayomanor. You could see Restrepo eventually develop into those, like, 75 catch, 800 yard, 3 touchdowns.
I could see Ayomanor being like a Cole Beasley type guy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Restrepo could pull that off. Yeah, Cole Beasley, Welker. Where are you getting those comparisons from?
I don't know. Just kind of.
But if there's going to be a home run, it's definitely Ayomanor. The size, the speed, the against the highest level of competition, the way he showed up. I love it.
In my opinion, out of everyone in that wide receiver room, he can take the largest workload.
Absolutely.
He led the entire receiver class in receiving yards when on the field with 41%. That's
the dude also can block. Like I've seen some clips of him just like throwing D-backs out of the club type of blocks too, which coaches will just love. That's how you really endear yourself to a staff. I know you're not getting fantasy points per pancake or anything like that, but a big body that he's not afraid. A lot of people projected him to go to the Rams because of how much they value receiver blocking. That would have been amazing had he landed there. But the Titans are even honestly more wide open for immediate production. So yeah. I love it.
So a couple other stats I did really, really like about Ayomanor. So Luther Burden, who is my pre-draft wide receiver one and a guy who I really like, him and Ayomanor are the only 2 pass catchers in this class to have 2 seasons with 45% of their teams receiving touchdowns when on the field. For reference, neither Travis Hunter or McMillan had 45% of their teams receiving yards when on the field in any season. And Ayomanor and Burden did it twice. So he can hog the rock in the end zone. This guy makes absurd contested catches. He can take a large workload. Everything is there for him to be a starting X in the NFL per se. And this last stat I'll add is he also happens to be one of 4 wide receivers since 2015 to average 80 to 90 receiving yards per game with over a 90 EPA in their second college season. Those other 4 are Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Drake London, and Elic Ayomanor.
Again, another one of those elite companies.
Great company.
Yeah, great company to have for sure. All right, we're going to wrap up our list in just a second, but we got over 340. Not bad for a random Sunday morning kind of unannounced. You'll love to see it. If you enjoy the content, please do consider that thumbs up on YouTube, the heart button on Twitter. It does help us grow and get out to more people. And like I mentioned, we will be streaming our rookie draft tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So if you like this Dynasty content, you want to see us, I know Tanner will be jiving in, CJ will be on with me, and who else knows from the RSJ crew will be diving in with us live as we break down our actual rookie draft for our year. Cannot wait for that. So come check that out with us. And of course, all of our content is at rotostreetjournal.com. We have one last sleeper, although this guy has been starting to get, since the high draft capital came in, some positive buzz from his coach. Not quite a sleeper, but we felt like we had to mention him because we both absolutely love Pat Bryant here on the Denver Broncos. I know you wanted to chat about him, so I'll let you start, and then I'll wrap it up as well. But huge fan of Pat Bryant. What do you like here?
Yeah, I particularly really like Pat Bryant. I was very high on him pre-draft. I put him at, I think, my wide receiver 8. I did not expect him to get the draft capital that he did. So him getting the draft capital that he did makes me even more confident in him. He had a 90th percentile college dominator rating and a 75th percentile college target share. I believe the only receiver with a higher dominator rating was McMillan, out of the higher drafted receivers. But Pat Bryant has some serious upside. I know a lot of hype has been growing just from Sean Payton mentioning that he sees a lot of similarities in Pat Bryant's game to Michael Thomas. And Pat Bryant also wears the number 13. So,
argument done. That's all you need to know. Michael Thomas pop, number 13, end it. That's all we need.
So there's a ton of, speculation there. But I do really like Pat Bryant. His 1.76 receiving yards per team pass attempt over his collegiate career was actually just behind Travis Hunter, while his receiving yards market share was actually higher. So he is I mean, to be honest, a lot of people are raving about Travis Hunter's receiver skills, but like there are receivers in this class that are just as good, if not better. This past season, amongst 124 Power 5 wide receivers with 50 or more targets, Pat Bryant ranked 14th in receiving yards, 7th in yards per route run, which was just behind Teteriah McMillan, Jordan Tyson, and Jeremiah Smith. He was 8th in yards per reception. He was 5th in receiving touchdowns, NFL passer rating when targeted, and receiving grade. And the receiving grade was also just right behind Jeremiah Smith and ahead of McMillan, actually. He was 6th in offensive grade, which is just behind both Smith and McMillan again, and 8th in drop rate. This guy, he broke out this past season, kind of a late breakout, which is not usually something I do. But I mean, there's a lot to like about this guy. The Denver Broncos wide receiver room is mostly wide open. They have Cortland Sutton, who actually has been in like a rumor for trade, maybe not this year or maybe next year, to, you know, a real contender. Not sure. We think Sutton likes Denver. But other than that, Denver doesn't have any legit pass catchers. I like Troy Franklin coming out of Oregon last year, but they didn't really give him much. So maybe there's something there with Pat Bryant. Sean Payton seems to really like the guy. I'm going to take a shot. Out of all of my sleepers, I'm kind of putting Pat Bryant in the same breath as Ayomanor just because they're similarly valued. But out of all the sleepers, Ayomanor is probably the one that I would use the highest draft pick on. I have legit used a second round pick on Ayomanor.
Wow.
And Pat Bryant, I would also use a late second on Pat Bryant quite easily. A mid-second, potentially, I would even think about it. Thornton, Martinez, like these are guys you can get around 3, 4. Gadsden, same thing, 3, 4. I've actually seen a lot of like Gadsden come up a little bit. People have been taking him in round 3 and 4, and I've been used to just waiting until the last pick of the draft and grabbing Gadsden, which is just crazy to me. But yeah, I you know, out of all these guys, I'd say I am like sleeper wise, Gadsden's easily my favorite. But like, if there's anyone I'm betting on out of my sleepers, it's gonna be Ayomanor. I am highest on Ayomanor. So I think he has the most upside out of the receivers that fell out of, you know, past round 2. I think he has the most upside.
Love it. And I'll reiterate too, and especially if you got here late, we hit a bunch of running backs early, and my favorite was Brashard Smith. I ranked him Brashard Smith, then Jordan James, then Monangai, and then JCM, Jacory, Croskey-Merritt were my top 4 running backs. So if you only caught the pass catchers, make sure to rewind, hit the running backs as well if you got the live straight. If you've been here on the replay and watched the whole thing, thank you so much as well. And everybody out there, thank you so much for being here. We have Best Ball, Dynasty, redraft rankings, all for free, all at rotostreetjournal.com, where we are churning out the articles these days. I know a lot of you watching out there know I just had my first kiddo, and so baby Josie's been amazing, really been soaking that in. But it is time to come out of the hibernation, starting to churn out some articles as well. And the draft guide started going on that this week, and that will be out ideally the first week of July as well. So thank you again so much for joining us here today. rotostreetjournal.com is where we breed and feed fantasy wolves, and you can find all of this content. You can find me at RotoStreetWolf. Tanner, remind them of your follow as well on Twitter.
Smooth Sofa Show. I will be changing that display name soon to show my real name because
all right, perfect.
Kind of but anyways, yeah, I'll have articles on the Roto Street Journal website for all of these players. I'm gonna try and get those out today, actually. So yeah, that's pretty much my plan for now. I don't know when we'll see you guys next, but we'll probably do some sort of we'll do Monday.
Tomorrow night, baby. Yeah, tomorrow night, 7 p.m.
Oh, yeah.
We'll get our live draft and we'll be firing this up. Let's go. So hopefully you can join us again tomorrow, 7 p.m. And if you're catching the replay, it might already be up on the YouTube page as well. So find us there. But thank you again so much for spending your time with us in a world full of fantasy sheep. Be the Wolf, guys. Later.
Later, guys.